So let me share some things with you before we get started. First of all, my name is Mike Miles. I'm the Executive Director with the Dallas Area Parkinsonism Society. Most people just call us DAPS. And so we're excited to bring educational series to you. And this one today is of special interest, one that I get lots of questions about. So before we get started, some housekeeping matters. During the presentation, if you have questions, there's a couple of ways that you can address those. There is a chat area at the bottom where you can type your question in, and then we will have someone on this end monitoring those so that we can ask those at the end of the session. Then there's also a Q&A tab that you'll see. If you'd prefer to ask your question rather than type it out, you can click that. We'll make note of that. And when the time is appropriate, then you will be recognized and be allowed to ask that question yourself. And so with that behind us, it's my privilege to introduce to you the Compassionate Cultivation team that is working with us today. And a native Houstonian, Christina Burke, joined Compassionate Cultivation in 2017. And she leads their community outreach and advocacy efforts. Before joining the Compassion team, Christina served as the Corporate Development Officer at both the SAFE Alliance in Austin and the University of Texas College of Fine Arts. Prior to moving to Austin, she spent 17 years in investor relations and communications roles in the oil and gas and consumer product industries. She received her Bachelor of Science in Health and Human Science with a focus on biological psychology from the University of Houston, and serves on a number of boards, including the Epilepsy Foundation of Central and South Texas. And then Dr. Hamilton, Dr. James Hamilton, as Compassionate Cultivation's production specialist, Jason is skilled in mass spectrometry, high performance liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, lipid extraction and analysis, and microbiology. Jason, that's a lot of stuff I'm glad you studied. I can hardly pronounce it all.
I can't.
We're glad you studied all that stuff. And prior to grad school, he spent 6 years working in both clinical and research labs in the fields of microbiology and molecular biology. He received a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Texas Tech and a Doctor of Philosophy, his PhD, in analytical chemistry, focused on biological mass spectrometry, with an emphasis on lipid analysis of individual cells from the University of North Texas. Jason, we are so thrilled to have you. And as I've said, we've had so many questions about this, and I turn it over to you.
Okay, well, I'll get started and then hand it over to Jason on his part. So I'm just gonna. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Christina Burke, and I lead the community outreach and advocacy efforts at Compassionate Cultivation. As Mike mentioned, I'm joined by my colleague, Jason Hamilton, PhD. He's our manufacturing and extraction director and has helped to build our quality assurance and quality control lab, so our testing lab. A little bit about Compassionate Cultivation. We are the only Texans owned and operated company licensed by the state of Texas under the Compassionate Use Program to produce and dispense medical cannabis for qualifying Texans. Our mission is to create the highest quality, purest medicine in the state of Texas and to transform the state through the power and truth of medical cannabis. Sorry, I just had a tick on my throat. I'm sorry, wrong button. A little bit of history on the Compassionate, it's like Texas's journey to cannabis medicine. The Compassionate Use Act was passed in June of 2015, and they issued the first licenses in October of 2017. There were 3 licenses issued, 2 of which are operating in the state of Texas. We are one of those. The bill at the time allowed for low THC, high CBD medicine to be available to Texans with intractable or refractory epilepsy that had a prescription from a neurologist, that neurologist had to be approved and registered in the Compassionate Use Registry of Texas, which we refer to as the CURT. So when I refer to CURT in this presentation, I'm talking about the Compassionate Use Registry of Texas. And what they mean by low THC, no more than 0.5% by weight of THC is allowed. And then at the time, it was no less than 10% of CBD by weight allowed, and that's in the original bill. In June of 2019, Governor Abbott approved the expansion of this program to include a variety of other conditions, allow for any board certified specialists to prescribe, and also removed some of the other barriers that existed in the previous bill. And we'll get to those as they become relevant in this presentation. The new program, as it exists today with the expansion in 2019, is under House Bill 3703. It expanded the condition list to allow for all of epilepsy and seizure disorders, autism, multiple sclerosis, spasticity, terminal cancer, ALS, and then what they defined as other incurable neurodegenerative diseases, such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, and many others. On this slide at the bottom, there's a link, the orange highlighted link, that sends you to the DPS website where it lists all of the incurable neurodegenerative diseases that are included. There's about 150 of them. There's quite a few. There's about 150 of them. So it also, in order to participate in the program for physicians, they must be registered with the Compassionate Use Registry, the CURT, in order to be eligible to prescribe. They must be also, in order to get approved, they must be board certified in a medical specialty approved by the American Board of Medical Specialties or the Bureau of Osteopathic Specialists. Most doctors are board certified in some sort of specialty, whether it's family medicine, rheumatology, etc. Also, for the patients, in order to qualify, patients must be a permanent resident of the state of Texas. They must be diagnosed with one of the qualifying conditions that are listed before, and they have to have an active prescription entered by their prescriber in the state registry, the CURT system. Another improvement, I would say, in the expansion bill, House Bill 73, goes to matching ratios with symptoms. And what that I mean by that is, most of the clinical studies on medical cannabis are focused on ratio-based formulations of the cannabinoids CBD and THC. So in the beginning, the bill said we could have no less than 10% CBD by weight. The new bill removed that floor on the CBD, so the expansion with that required amount moved, we were able. This change allowed us to produce formulations that targeted or treat specific symptoms. So high CBD and balance ratio formulations are the ones that we have come out with because of this improvement in the bill. And in the Parkinson studies, and we'll get to the Parkinson studies, the best results were achieved using balanced formulations, although the higher CBD formulation was recommended for anxiety and depression. However, with these ratios, every person is different, and medical cannabis is a natural treatment. So everyone that takes this is going to react differently. They're going to metabolize it differently depending on their weight, what other medications they're taking. And so finding the right dose sometimes takes some trial and error with the doctors. We always recommend starting low and slow, as most doctors do with other medications. So it just sometimes takes a bit to find that right ratio and right dosage. On this slide, it kind of shows these symptoms with the research that we have found with cannabis medicine. These are the symptoms that have been treated in these studies, and these are the recommendations on these, what we've seen improvement in each of these symptoms based on these clinical studies. For example, anxiety is best treated with a higher CBD formulation, and we'll get to our formulations in a second, while pain, insomnia, muscle spasms, things that are related a lot to Parkinson's, are seeing more success with the balanced ratios. We offer, like I said, the two ratios that we are finding success with and that we have created are that we have the high CBD formulations, which is a 20-to-1. That means that there are 3,000 milligrams of CBD to 5 milligrams of THC per bottle. But with the balance ratios, where we're finding the most success with our Parkinson's symptoms, and we'll get to those, and some of those are listed on here, the most prevalent symptoms with Parkinson's are the balanced formulations. So we have a 3-to-1 that each bottle has 15 milligrams of CBD and 5 milligrams of THC per milliliter tincture. And then we have a balanced formulation of the 1-to-1, which is each of them have you know what, that's a typo on that, I'm sorry, 150 milligrams of THC and 150 milligrams of CBD, and I'll update that. And these formulations are available in a variety of flavors, including a Force Plus formulation that contains terpenes. And we can get to terpenes if there's any questions on the later slide on that. So getting back to Parkinson's disease and cannabis, we've treated right now over 80 people that are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease throughout the state. What we are hearing consistently with the improvements are a reduction of tremors, an improvement in their sleep quality and the amount of time that they fall asleep or stay asleep, increased energy. Some of that might have to do with the increased sleep, a reduction in pain, a reduced anxiety. And then we had some questions previously about blood pressure. What we are hearing from the doctors that are citing these with their patients are the CBD medicine does help improve patients with high blood pressure when it's related to anxiety or stress. They don't have any information on low blood pressure or other symptoms of that, but when they are seeing patients that have stress or anxiety related blood pressure, high blood pressure, see a reduction in blood pressure. Some of the side effects that we're seeing, and you know, it depends on what your experience is, if these are actually bad side effects, are increase in sleepiness or somnolence, which is excessive sleepiness. Sometimes that works itself out just because your body's getting used to the medicine within a week or two. Some people welcome the increased sleepiness because it does, you know, help improve sleep, like in the improvement section. We're also reporting on some GI issues at first with the medicine. Our medicine is based in a MCT or coconut oil, and sometimes, especially at higher doses, there becomes some GI sensitivities with the coconut oil. Again, that works itself out a lot in the first few weeks once your body gets used to it. If it persists, we always let people know that we have other oil bases, safflower oil, or we're coming out with some other delivery methods that don't use the oil that might improve that. Some people like the GI issues because it helps things moving depending on what other medications they're on. Another side effect that we hear often with all of our patients is an increase in appetite. This is usually a good thing because with a lot of the symptoms we're treating are these conditions that people have. A decrease in appetite, which causes a number of other issues, is a problem. So an increase in appetite, while it's a side effect, is usually considered a good thing. With that side, I'm going to turn this over to Jason Hamilton. He is going to kind of go through some of the endocannabinoid system and some of the research we're seeing with Parkinson's and all the good science stuff. So here you go, Jason.
Thank you, Christina. Yeah, so with the endocannabinoid system, it is a regulatory, or plays a regulatory role in a number of physiological processes and has become a potential therapeutic target for many diseases. And specifically in Parkinson's, it's becoming a therapeutic target for both motor and non-motor symptoms. So cannabinoids generally come from two places: the human body, which are endogenous cannabinoids, or the cannabis plant, which we considered exogenous. The human endocannabinoid system was discovered in the 1990s from research on the effects of cannabis on the human body. CB1 is found in the central and peripheral nervous system. It's also found in the brain as a receptor that tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, interacts with. This gives the user the high associated with THC. CB2 receptors are predominantly found in the immune system and the gastrointestinal system. One specific point about CB2, it's also playing a large role in inflammation, which may be a benefit to some of the Parkinson's patients. These receptors are a large part of the endocannabinoid system, play an important regulatory role in many physiological processes, such as our mood, our energy level, our intestinal fortitude, immune activity, blood pressure, bone density, glucose metabolism, how we experience pain, stress, hunger, and more. Some of the research that's currently out on Parkinson's disease is mainly focused on animals. And so what we have here is just a couple bullet points about a lot of that research. So the extensive preclinical studies in animal models of PD provide evidence that modulation of the endocannabinoid system may impact these various aspects of Parkinson's disease, as summarized by Concannon. Cannabinoid receptors are present in high density in the basal ganglia tissues involved in Parkinson's. Multiple studies in animal models have demonstrated symptom relief, amelioration of treatment-induced dyskinesias, and suggest a role in neuroprotection with various cannabinoid therapies. Evidence from human clinical trials remains limited to early trials, mostly observational with small volumes of patients. Self-reported outcomes have often included favorable reports of efficacy, while a very limited number of controlled trials have not reproduced those findings. Babieva et al. Provides an excellent summary of multiple small PD studies of mobility, dyskinesia, amelioration, and associated symptoms, including pain, anxiety, sleep, and depression. Some studies have yielded conflicting results, and more research is necessary to clarify the specific benefits of medical cannabis for PD to allow more comprehensive future evaluation of best practices for treatment. Some of the human studies here I'd like to highlight. In 2001, there was a study done with nabilone, which is a synthetic THC, showing a reduction in L-DOPA-induced dyskinesias in a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study. Chagas in 2014 showed that CBD has promise and improved quality of life and no psychiatric comorbidities in a double-blind placebo-controlled study. Zwardy et al. Showed that CBD improved motor ability and reduced psychotic symptoms. In an open label pilot study, two studies that demonstrated an increase in motor ability and decreased pain were done by Lowton and Shohet. Additionally, Lowton also showed an improved sleep quality. These are both open labeled observational studies. Vendorova showed that cannabis, this is an inhalation of cannabis study, but they showed an improving motor symptoms from the L-DOPA-induced dyskinesia, and this was a self-reported patient study. CBD and THC show neuroprotection through antioxidant actions, and then we've also, to demonstrate that there are studies that do not have any improvements at all, Carroll in 2004 showed that there were no improvements in dyskinesias or Parkinsonism. And that was a randomized double-blind study.
Those are all on our website too.
And so these all can be found on the website, and we will upload all the citations, or you can request and we'll send them to you. At Compassionate Cultivation, I do oversee our manufacturing formulation and help set up the testing lab. But just as a brief overview of the process there, we are a fully integrated operation. So we do have cultivation, extraction, manufacturing, and testing all under one roof. Our cultivation team has worked tirelessly to optimize our strains. We originally started out with a high CBD strain that came in at a 20-to-1 ratio, CBD to THC, specifically for the initial formulations. But since the opening of our balanced formulations, they've worked to create ratio-specific formulations. These are growing in at the ratios that we're looking for, 20-to-1, 3-to-1, 1-to-1. And then that's a consistent run every single time. So then we can take that in the extraction lab. We use a CO2 extraction method. We've found that this method works best for the type of extractions we're doing, and it tends to be the safest for the environment and for our personnel. We can dial in this extraction to reduce our in-run processing procedures as well. So once we get the extracted material out, we undergo a series of purification methods to remove all of the inert materials and end up with a relatively pure cannabinoid oil, 85% or higher cannabinoid content. We do send those down for testing to verify that those ratios and the potency is correct. We then take that final pure oil, formulate our medicine into the final form. It's then sent down again to the testing lab for verification of our potencies to make sure that we are within our ranges set by the state. It then undergoes a series of contaminant testing, which includes residual solvents, pesticide contaminants, heavy metals, microbial testing, and then we also can perform a terpene test as well for any of our terpene included medicines. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Christina.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Okay, so we get a lot of questions, about how do I participate in the compassionate use program? A lot of people are confused by it, think it's a difficult process or you have to jump through a lot of hoops. It's really not for the patients. The prescribers and the dispensaries are the ones that do most of the work. So I try to put together a slide, just a very simple slide. If you're interested in medical cannabis as a treatment option, there are a few easy steps. And this applies to any of the dispensaries. We're all under the same rules. We all have to operate the same way. One is just talk to your doctor. If your doctor is not registered yet, our team can help walk your physician through the steps. Most doctors are approved within a day or two of applying, as long as they upload all their information correctly. If your doctor is unable or unwilling to register, there are some doctors that want to register, but their hospital systems are not supportive of the program, so they can't, or they do in their private practice and not if they're at their clinicals or their clinic practice, or I guess it is a clinic. So if their doctor for any reason is unable or unwilling to register, we can assist patients in matching you guys with a doctor in your area that will prescribe. We have several doctors that do telemedicine. You don't have to terminate your relationship with your existing doctor and to go see a doctor for medical cannabis. You can have both doctors. You can continue your existing treatment with your current doctor and still go to another physician to receive your medical cannabis prescription. But we always encourage, make sure you talk to your doctors, you're honest with them, you let them know that you're doing this, you're trying this, just because if there's any drug interactions, and just keeping, being transparent with your doctors. The second step, once your doctor is registered, your doctor will add you to the Compassionate Use Registry of Texas, the CURT system. Once your doctor puts in your prescription in the registry, then the patients call the dispensary. The dispensaries don't get alerts when you're put into the system. That's a HIPAA violation, and DPS doesn't really participate in that. So you have to call the prescription, call the dispensary, they'll verify your prescription, and then the team from there, the dispensary teams will take it from there. They'll walk you through your prescription, your dosage instructions, any other instructions. The only thing our dispensary does not do, we don't give medical advice, we don't give dosing advice. We follow your doctor's orders, but we can help walk you through the process and answer any other questions. They'll talk to you about different delivery methods. Do you want the tincture? Do you want a spray? Do you want a lozenge when they come out? They'll talk flavors, and they'll also schedule either a pickup at one of our statewide pickup locations or schedule a delivery to your home. So for the patient, it's actually a pretty simple process. It's the doctors and dispensaries that do most of the heavy lifting. With that, I'm going to end on a video of one of our success stories. His name's Kevin. We'll watch just a short, right under 2-minute video. And after that, we'll open it up to questions. 1 second.
My name is Kevin Ivey. Approximately 2015 is when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I always had this weird something, and I didn't really know what it was. But then, I'd gone to a doctor or two, and they said, yeah, it looks like it's definitely seizures, but it was really a hard time for them to figure it out. They wanted to do a lobotomy to see if that would help, stop the seizures. That's when other people were saying, yeah, this isn't seizures, what you have is something else. My wife kind of yeah, I think it's Parkinson's, and she was right. A lot of my symptoms were forgetfulness, pain, balance. I couldn't pick up my granddaughter. I couldn't play with her. I couldn't do a lot of these things. I was in a wheelchair or walker or something for a long time. I was taking a lot of dosages of different medications. There were many times I couldn't get out of bed because I was in so much pain, or the medication was just making me not get out of bed, or whatever it was. My wife and I decided that we've done all the medication, we've been getting shots, but it wasn't getting better. So then in January this year, I started taking the THC, and then for whatever reason, that just balanced me out. I couldn't walk. I'd have to get either a wheelchair, a walker, or some kind of thing to help me walk. And ever since I've been taking that, I haven't had that problem. I've been able to go off of a lot of the medications that I'm on now and lower doses on other ones. And with this, I'm able to drive now as well. Anybody that has Parkinson's, I would definitely encourage people to try the THC, because I haven't had a high effect or anything like that, and I've been able to function more in life. And I'm definitely for the THC.
Okay, and with that, we're open to questions.
Great, thank you so much. I know that we'll have a lot of questions. We've already had a few that have popped up, so I'm going to go ahead and read some of those. And for those that would prefer to raise your hand and ask, I can unmute you, and you can ask those questions as well. One of the first questions that we have is, if I get a cannabis prescription from one doctor, will it interfere with the medication I'm currently on that is prescribed by my current doctor? And I know you addressed that a little bit, but can you expand on that, Christina?
Yes, I mean, I'm not sure of all the, there are some medications that do have interactions with cannabis. For example, there is an epilepsy drug that it increases the liver, or increases the liver enzymes. So they try not to do those together. There are some, you just have to work with your doctor. They should be able to find that. If there are some pain medications that are sensitive, that when you're on these medications, you're not supposed to eat grapefruit. And grapefruit has the same receptors, I guess. They interact with the same receptors as cannabis. So if there's a medication that you're not supposed to eat grapefruit, you probably shouldn't take CBD with that. But it's really something you discuss with your doctor, because with this being so new, there are a lot of unknowns about what these interactions are. But generally, the doctors that prescribe this do some research and see what medications are, what pharmaceuticals are known to interact with cannabis or THC, CBD. So that is definitely something to talk to your doctor about. There are some out there that we know, but especially with Parkinson's being a newer condition, we don't have all that information quite yet.
Okay, thank you. Another question that we have is, I have Parkinson's, and one of the worst side effects that I suffer from is dystonia in my feet. I experience severe symptoms daily. Do you think cannabis might be something to help with the intense cramping?
I know that dystonia was on some of the research of showing improvement of that. I did not get the cramp. I will say with, for example, with our ALS patients, cramping is one of the top symptoms that they're trying to treat. And we have seen and reported from our patients with ALS that the cramping is less severe and less frequent. So, and the ALS patients are also on the balanced formulations, the 1-to-1 or the 3-to-1. That's what they usually start with. And so we are seeing that kind of cramping. In those studies, they did say improvement in dystonia. Was it specific?
Not specific. Most of the studies I saw for Parkinson's were related more to inflammation and pain, not specifically about dystonia. I'll look more into that, and we can add more research to the website, or we can send out articles if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be great. And I know as we've had, as I mentioned, a lot of folks have might not be able to tune in right now, but might be watching later on this weekend because they had some scheduling conflicts. So there might be some additional questions that come up.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've also got another question here. Does cannabis interfere with carbidopa-levodopa?
I can't answer that right now. Again, it's something I can look into
Okay.
specifically, and again, we'll answer that at a
These are very specific questions. Wow. Do you know what that, you have that written down? We write that. Okay. We will follow up with you on that. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So that's what, that's the primary medication that's used to treat Parkinson's. And so that's really what most of our folks are on. And of course that varies in terms of dosage. And so yeah, that would be great if we could get some information on that. I know a lot of folks would be interested in it.
I was very specific when I talked to our Parkinson prescribers, and I did ask them about interactions. And at this time, so I'm assuming, so that's not a fact, but when I asked them, have they seen any interactions with any other of the medications that Parkinson's patients are on? Because that's one of the first things we ask all of our doctors when they prescribe for different conditions. And at this time, we asked about 5 different physicians just to ask to prepare for this presentation, and they had no reported interactions.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume that if that's one of the most popular drugs that the Parkinson's patients are on, then that would include that, but I can confirm that. Will you make a note of that so I can ask?
Great. Yeah, that would be helpful. So we've got another question here. So we've got a question of how would my doctor get a hold of you? Just specifically if we have a member that would like for their doctor to contact you and get a little bit more information, is the best way for them to go to your website, or is there someone? Okay, great.
And it's also just as easy to contact me. You can email me directly. You can go to our dispensary. We have a call center that, we're set up to walk patients and physicians through. Once the physician is identified, if they have questions, we can answer any question the physician has about the registry, other, any from what we've heard, give them as much information. We also have our sales team that can go out, and they have actually go and sit with the physician sometimes and walk them through the registry if they need. But there's several, I've just put several different ways to find information on the website. We have a whole physician resource tab, but we're always, there's always someone here available to answer the phone. And I think we're pretty good about with returning a call within an hour, if not sooner, to anyone if they do get a voicemail. But we have a pretty robust answering system. It's people that work. It's not a call center that's off somewhere. They're actually in the dispensary working in the company. And so we usually get back to people pretty quickly. But those are, that's all the different ways to contact. And there's always someone that will answer.
Wonderful. That's great. We have another question. I was at my pain management doctor a week ago. Another patient had THC in their system, and the pain management doctor was not going to prescribe pain meds. How does the registry work with this?
The registry doesn't communicate with what is that registry for the DEA license? Is it the DEA license that they have? Those two registries don't communicate there, and there are no laws around what if you're taking other medications. The goal is to try to reduce the opioids for pain, and a lot of the registry it doesn't communicate. It's not gonna. There's no limit. There's nothing in the law that say that they can't do both. Am I answering this question correctly? I will say this: if a patient is on, whether it's our medicine and even some of the consumer products are allowed to have, by law, it's legal to have up to 0.3% THC by weight. So, and with the hemp law being legal, THC it's almost decriminalized the THC level, if you will, because hemp-based products are legal in the state of Texas and in the U.S., I guess. And so that can have up to 0.3% THC. So with that being enacted, then it's really, there's no law saying that you can't, if you test positive for THC, you can't have other pain medications. That's really up to the doctor whether or not they want to have someone on both.
Okay.
Did that answer that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Right.
Oh, there's a couple of different ways of looking at that question. Is it the doctor preference? Is it the law? Is it the interaction? So there's a couple different angles you can look at that question.
Okay. Okay. Do you all have a relationship with some of the movement disorder specialists in the Dallas area, or are there some neurologists that you're working a little bit more closely with in this area?
We do. We are actively reaching out to movement disorder specialists, and we do have a list that we have a gentleman named Rodrigo Cravey, and he helps match patients with doctors in their area. But we have movement disorder specialists all over the state. We also have, if the specialist isn't taking on new patients or they can't get in soon enough, we also have specialists that are in Austin, and I know there's one in Dallas and one in Houston that do telemedicine. And as long as there's a current diagnosis of the movement disorder, and as long as it falls under one of the qualifying conditions, they can assist them with getting into the registry.
Okay.
But we do have in the Dallas area, and I can have Rodrigo send that list to you if you like. And you can share that. These are all doctors that have given us permission to share their information. And if we have the information on the list and we send it out, those are doctors that are taking new patients as well. It's just, can you get in soon enough? Sometimes patients don't want to wait. So that's when we send them to one of the telemedicine doctors.
Absolutely. Yes, please send that. And that would be great for us to be able to have that as a resource and to provide for those that are interested in pursuing it, for sure.
Yes.
Another question we have is, how much does it cost, and is it covered by insurance?
Good question. It is not covered by insurance, unfortunately. It's still federally illegal, and therefore, there's not FDA approval. So without that, you're not going to see, I don't think for a while, or if ever, I don't know, depends on what the federal government does, insurance cover this. The cost depends on your ratio and your dosage. I'll just give you our prices. Our ratios, for example, our 1-to-1 ratio is $75 a bottle. Depending on your dosage, that could last you a month, that could last you a week or two. It really just depends on your dosage and where you hit that sweet spot where you're seeing the most improvement. Our 3-to-1 ratios are $90, and our 20-to-1 ratios are 180 for a small bottle and 342 for a large bottle. Also, because of the fact that it's still federally illegal, we can't take credit cards. We can take cash, check, we can take debit cards. We also, some patients, we can't accept the health savings plan accounts, the FSA or HSA cards. And this goes across the board for all dispensaries. This isn't just us. We can take those because they are self-funded. So if someone has one of those health saving plans, debit cards that you get from your insurance companies, we can accept those, or they can apply for reimbursement through that plan for their medication.
Okay, great. Can you talk a little bit more just about the difference between what you all do as a dispensary compared to a lot of the shops, the places that we see just driving around town? Can you kind of help us understand a little bit better about the differences there?
Yes, and so bear with me because this is a long answer to a short question. This is a question we get daily, if not hourly. There's not a day or that goes by that we don't get this question. And it's a valid question, especially with the hemp bill being passed in Texas. You're starting to see, even before it was legal, because technically before the hemp bill was passed, these CBD shops were technically still illegal. There was just no enforcement. Now with the hemp bill being passed, you're going to see some of those go away because they're going to regulate these a little more closely, but you're going to see some more pop up too. So like I said, this is the number one question we get from patients, from doctors, from legislators, from everyone. What is the difference between your medicine and the CBD oil that I see on every street corner, every gas station in the state? Well, the answer is, like I said, a long answer. There are many differences. And also there's the potential of serious health risk if you don't do your research on these. Because we are a regulated medical program, our medicine is tested for purity and consistency. The consumer hemp industry is very similar to what the vitamin industry was or is. There are lots of really good products, but there's also a lot of really bad products. It's not regulated for accuracy and truth in labeling and ingredients. So when you're buying these products, you know, there are some things to look for. One, the products you see that are readily available are hemp-derived products. Our products are made with cannabis, or say, I like to say marijuana, which both of the plants are cannabis plants. The difference in the plant, and that's where a lot of confusion lies. What's the difference between cannabis or marijuana and hemp? The difference is the amount of THC. By law, hemp can only have up to 0.3% by weight. Anything above that is illegal federally and in the state. So if there's a hemp product out there and it tests in a regulated market more than 0.3% by weight of THC, that is illegal. It's considered marijuana, or what people say cannabis, even though it's the cannabis plant. Confusing, but that's just the way it is. Also with the certification, if you're buying a legitimate hemp product, you should demand to see a certificate of analysis, which should be readily available, either connected to the product in the box or on a website. This certifies that the product meets quality and safety standards, what Jason does for us at Compassionate, including the potency, the consistency, the presence of toxins, pesticides, and other contaminants. Our COAs are available on our website for each batch. When you get some of these products and they've been tested, and you hear it on the news sometimes, people get tainted CBD. Where did they get their hemp from, their isolate from? Was it from a country that's very polluted? And I'll get to that later on the list. And you know, some of these products have tested positive for pesticides, mercury, fungi, and molds, and just other chemical contaminants that, especially if you're using this for medical or for health reasons, you don't want to ingest. You look for concentration. That's crucial to delivering effective and repeated dose. When you're looking at these hemp products, for liquids, you need to pay attention to the milligrams or milliliters for the capsules. For the milligrams and milliliters. For capsules and other edibles, look at the milligrams per serving. Even that being said, some of these they don't have truth in labeling. So it's kind of a gamble, if you will, of what products to buy. I mean, there's some better testing out there and some news out there. We'll get to that slide in a second about some of the products. You need to check the source. You need to make sure where your source comes from. Cannabis is a known bioaccumulator, which means if heavy metals and toxins are in the soil or the waters that they're growing in and being fed from, then that plant is going to, the cannabis is going to accumulate those into the plant. So you want to avoid products that are made in regions or countries where soil contamination or just pollution is more prevalent. You know, our cannabis is grown in a controlled indoor environment. There's no pesticides, there's no chemicals used on the premises in our plants. You know, they're tested rigorously to meet certain standards. We have to be consistent, we have to be pure. And you know, consistency in dosing and purity is very important when you're treating these conditions. And then how is it made? You want to look for processes that involve CO2 extraction. This method is, it produces a clean and pure and quality oil or medication. You also want to look at the ingredients. CBD products should use high quality carrier oils like coconut oil or olive oil. You need to look out for in these other over-the-counter products, artificial sweeteners, flavor additives, and things that can be allergenic. We use food-grade coconut oil in our products, but if there's a patient that has a nut sensitivity, we have a safflower oil that is an option. Or when the lozenges come out, we'll have the lozenges that aren't in all the oil. You know, this is even, as long as its answer is brief compared to the information that we do have on our website and just out there. It's just like, do your research, you know what you're looking for, know the questions to ask. And to follow up on that, this is a study done by Leafly. This is a pretty legitimate, credible cannabis source. They, in November of 2019, they tested 47 different over-the-counter products for, to see if they had truth in labeling, basically. And if you can look, and it's available on that link on that slide, you can see what products were the good products and what weren't. But 33% of those tested contain much less CBD than they had on their label, or none at all. And that was promised on the label. So these, you know, good quality oils are generally a little bit more expensive. And so if you're buying a product for, say, a bottle of CBD oil that's $100, and you're getting less than 5% of the CBD in it that it says it is, you're basically, you know, it's very easily to be deceived. So I would encourage people to do their research and follow some of those guidelines. Us being a medical product, you know, we are regulated by the state. We have to test our products. We have to turn them in. We are very regulated for consistency and purity in our products.
It's very helpful. Yeah, that's all great information. Another good question that just came up was, could this legally be mailed? How would somebody get this? So how would they, like if they didn't have a doctor here and they used one of these that are part of your information and referral list, would they just go through them, or how would that work?
So by the law, we are vertically integrated, which means we're seed to sale. We, you know, we also means we dispense the medicine. If we cannot, and because it's federally illegal, the product cannot be mailed because the post office, the mail is regulated by the government, the federal government. Therefore, what we provide a few options. The doctors cannot dispense the medicine. We have to. In order to dispense this medicine, you have to be a licensed dispensary or work for the licensed dispensary, be CURT registered, your name, and have a license to do so. So what we do is we have, throughout the state, we have a few doctor's offices, and say we have one in Dallas. We're about to have another one in Dallas. We have a couple in Houston, and we have one in San Antonio. We're about to have another place in these different cities statewide where you can come and pick up your medicine at a set time. If you're unable to pick it up from one of our dispensing locations, we have door-to-door delivery. We have a small fleet of Priuses and a group of delivery drivers that drive all over the state every week and deliver this medicine door-to-door.
Wow. Impressive. Very impressive.
Those Priuses get a lot of mileage.
I bet. Yeah. Good thing you're using a Prius.
Right.
Okay. Let me see if I've got any other questions. One question was, what about the delivery fee? Can you talk to that?
Yes. So right now, if your medication is $250 or less, there is a $25 delivery fee. If it's $250 or more, and the delivery is free. we have, if you pick up from obviously from one of the dispensing locations, there's no delivery charge. So,
Okay.
and it's also, we encourage people to pick up if they can. One, because it's a little more convenient. We're almost like the cable guy when we are delivering. We don't know what traffic's going to look like. And if you're driving from Austin to Amarillo, or Austin to Dallas or Austin to Houston, you never know what traffic's going to look like. So we can give you a window between 8 and 5. And that's sometimes inconvenient for people being at home. So we often encourage people to pick up at one of our dispensing locations at those set times that they can. That way they can plan it over their lunch and get there. There's no delivery fee. It's pretty convenient.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Okay, let me see if there are any other questions. Susan, I see that you've got your hand raised. Did you have a question? I'm going to allow you to talk if you wanted to ask a question. Susan, did you have a question you wanted to ask? Okay, I'm going to assume that she did not. Okay, well, let me just open it up if there are any other questions, if you wanted to raise your hand to ask, or you can use the Q&A feature or the chat feature, whichever is convenient. We had some really good questions, and we expect and understand that as we digest a lot of this information, folks might have more questions, and so of course we welcome those. And Christina, you've got that slide. If you could switch that back just so that folks can make sure they've got your email contact in case they wanted to reach out to you guys directly. And one thing I know you mentioned to me, Christina, was that you guys are really encourage people to come and tour your facility. Obviously, under the circumstances, I know you get people geared up with all the PPE goodies that they need. Is that also an opportunity for folks to check out the facility in Dallas?
The facilities that are not in Austin, all of we call them our temporary distribution centers until we can have our own brick and mortar, until we're allowed to. They are just pickup locations. The only place that we can actually produce the medicine has to be seed to sell. So our location in Austin is right outside of Austin is the only location that has the full, the full facility, the grow, the manufacturing, the extraction lab. What we have done with other groups in the past, and we're happy to do this with your group and your members, we're happy to host almost like a support group or an event at our facility. And we're still pretty tight, obviously, on the number of tours, but for groups like yours, we encourage it. We want you guys to come. We'll just have to PPE up. We're getting a little more flexibility on that as long as people, follow the rules and wear the mask and that sort of thing. But, we do encourage people to come toward the facility. It's no matter what you think you're going to see, it really is so different and so impressive. And you feel like you're really walking through a biotech lab and it just happens to grow some plants in the back. And it's just really fascinating to see how it works and talk to our experts. But, if there's ever a time that you guys, if some of your patients want to come, just let me know, because I can make sure that, hey, this is a special, this is from the Dallas group that we talked to. They want to come see the facility, great. Or if you ever want to, consider putting a group together and caravanning down, or, maybe get a bus down, we can maybe put a bus together, get an event. And it might be a little harder with COVID right now, but as things relax a little bit, we could do an actual event for you guys. I mean, we're happy to do that. But anytime anybody from your group especially wants to come, just let me know and I'll make sure we get it taken care of and they get a great tour.
Great. Looks like we've got one other question here. If someone does opt to start taking the medical marijuana, who would they call? Is it best to go through their doctor if they're having symptoms or they have questions once they've begun taking it? Would it be better to contact you all directly? Who would they refer to?
Obviously, to get signed up and get started, always refer, go to your doctor. You have to get your prescriptions through your doctor, talk to your doctor about it. If, like I said, if your doctor is unwilling or unable to register or, work with this product, then, we can match you, call us, we'll match you up with the product. Once you're on the product, we can give feedback and advice based on what we've heard from other patients, not medical advice. We stay away from that. We always refer to your doctors on that. But we also reach out to the doctors consistently and make sure they have all the information to answer the questions. And sometimes the doctors just say, call the dispensary, they'll answer your question. And there are groups that we do that for, but it really is anything with interactions and dosing changes, we refer to your doctor. Any questions people have on what they're seeing with improvements, side effects, you know, anything about the medication, the program, we can answer. We just walk a fine line. We just do our best, and we just avoid giving any kind of medical advice.
Sure, sure, and that absolutely makes sense. I know you guys referred to a few of your studies earlier. I think Dr. Hamilton kind of referred to those. Are any of those studies addressing blood pressure? I recently learned that I think one of our members said that 1 in 5 Parkinson's folks experience low blood pressure. And Christina, I know you and I talked about that just a little bit. Are there any specific studies addressing that?
I don't have any at this time, but I'll definitely add that to the list of questions to answer. And as we find those, if they do exist, I can share that information.
Excellent.
I
Terrific.
did ask one of our prescribers, Dr. Patankar, about low blood pressure, and he's the one that spoke to reduction in high blood pressure, but he didn't have any experience in that, but we can add that to our list for sure.
Great, great. All right, well, I don't see any other questions, any other hands raised or comments. You guys have provided us with so much information, and again, it's just content that I think is still really new to a lot of us, and so lots of questions and just really kind of learning how it might be helpful. Or I think we're really just kind of in that early phase of understanding how, you know, if this is something that we can use and consider. So.
Yeah, no, we're happy to do it. Thank you for including us and letting us do this and being open to it. And like I said, we're here. We have a ton of information on our website. I'll send the presentation for you to have for reference. But and anybody feel free to reach out directly to me or any of the phone numbers, and we can answer as many questions as we can without getting, you know, beyond medical advice. But if if you're interested in meeting, being matched with the doctor, we can help you with that. And if there's any follow-up questions, like I said, please feel free to reach out. And again, thank you for being open to this and letting us present.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking to some of the best people around. So these are incredibly resilient, strong people that are on a tough journey. So we appreciate you just exposing us to this new opportunity. And so we will definitely be in touch, and I'll pass on any of that information. Make sure that we share this recording on our YouTube channel. So thank you, Christina and Dr. Hamilton. You guys have been great.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right. Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, folks, as we said, we're going to go ahead and tune off for now. If you have any questions, if you've got any emails, obviously all that contact information has been provided, but please, we would love your feedback. I am going to send out a quick poll. It's only 4 questions, but if you've got, it'll take you maybe 30 seconds to take that. I would sure appreciate your feedback so we can make sure that we're delivering the most effective and comprehensive information to you and your family. So that would be great.